To me, those are all logical. Quimby comes from the thought of the healing beyond something that I can't get my hand around, my
Head around,
arm
you mean?
around. And yet it still happens today. We were just talking about that, even though it's now. I mean, there are people like Louise Hay, there are people like the placebo,
Joe Dispenza.
Joe Dispenza, that continues to kind of have that type of healing, but now it's scientific with Joe Dispenza. At least he's making it scientific. So maybe from Quimby to that, I'll be able to wrap my arm around it. I don't know, but right now
I
it's
think
just so
like
hard.
if you think about all these people, even Joe Dispenza, can you imagine the amount of study he did? He probably studied all these guys and went, okay, this makes sense to me. Now I'm going to show them how it's true. And then he did all those what do you call it? Laboratory type of things that he could do to document the stuff and show what's happening to somebody's brain and everything. But I can't imagine the amount of research he must have done. And even it's interesting about Quimby because he didn't do any research. He just came up with this on his own, basically. But yet, here he's got like pages and pages of stuff of notes. Can you imagine?
But I have to jump in for Dr. Quimby for a moment, even though he's not a doctor. I'm Dr. Feren, so what's it? But here's the deal. We keep saying he didn't have do that work and stuff, but he did, because he did it through
with spirit.
No. But before that, he's doing the experiments with Lucius. He's doing it with the mesmerism. He's seeing what works, what
but
doesn't
Patrick,
work.
What they were trying to say is he didn't actually go, whereas Mesmer perhaps went back and studied Swedenborg, the transcendentalists studied all these people prior in the 1600s and the 1500s back to Plotinus and the Greeks and stuff. He didn't do that. He just sat there and with his intuitiveness, he said, I can look into this and I believe in the healing of that Jesus Christ did, and he felt like he did the healing that Jesus Christ did. He used the same method. That's what he said.
Yeah, but
he didn't do a lot of research.
I'm not going to beat the dead horse, but here's the deal. What I'm saying is he just didn't walk in and go, I'm Dr. Quimby and I've got an idea that just... He did it by all these experiments that he was doing that proved right or proved wrong. And then he realized, I didn't have to use Lucius anymore because I can do it within my own self.
Right. And the other thing, which was really interesting, he did not charge people unless they were healed. Like he charged like $2. Like he'd say, if you were healed, then you can pay me. And I think he charged like $2 a person or something.
Money back guarantee with Dr. Quimby.
I know. So I know. So he wasn't like where there was a lot of charlatans probably, and people that would go and give people potions and stuff like that and say, I'm going to heal you. But he was like, no, don't pay me until you're healed. And like he did absent treatment too, and they'll talk about that where he healed people at a distance. I mean, in other places in the U.S., not just in his own town. Like he did absent treatment. Like he would sit. He'd say, I'm going to be with you at 2 a.m. in the morning. Get up, drink a glass of water, and just sit there. And he would do the same exact thing. And now we believe in absent treatment in Science of Mind. We do it. Right. And that's what he did. Like he would just, if somebody couldn't get to him, he would just say, I'm going to be with you at such and such a time in the morning and blah, blah, blah. And he would do the exact same thing he did with the person sitting next to him. So it's fascinating, right? Anyway, I picked this for a reason. It says how Quimby healed. So let's just see what he has to say for himself. Hopefully it's going to play. I know, we don't hope.
You guys have to understand, this is history.
In the natural world has its birth in the spiritual world. Of this truth, however, men are ignorant, and mistaking shadow for substance, they give credit when credit is not due. No man, for example, should be considered superior to another unless he proves his superiority by reducing to a science some phenomenon hitherto unexplained. Before musical sounds were reduced to a science, they were simply phenomenon. People could sing, but he who sang best was not entitled to more praise than any other, for he sang ignorantly. To him only was credit due who reduced musical sounds to a science. The same is true with regard to disease and its cure. The world is full of sickness arising from various causes. The phenomena are in the natural world, while the causes originate in an invisible world. Medical science, being based on opinions, is confined to the natural world, where the causes of disease are supposed to arise.
So they come from the physical.
This is not the case with the science by which I cure. By a clairvoyant faculty, I obtain a knowledge of disease which cannot be obtained through the natural senses. This being imparted to the patient changes the direction of his mind and affects the cure. In other words, the explanation of the disease is its cure. I will state a case for illustration. A person calls on me for examination. We sit down together. No questions are asked on either side. I have no knowledge of the patient's feelings through my natural senses. After placing my mind upon him, I become perfectly passive, and the patient's mind, being troubled, puts me in a clairvoyant state. As I retain my natural senses, I am, it is evident, in two states at once. The history of his trouble, together with the name of his disease, I now relate to the patient. This constitutes the disease, and the evidences in the body are the effect of his belief. Disease, according to my theory, does not reach to the natural senses. I cannot, therefore, explain to the well my mode of treatment. The well take no interest in it, for to them my theory is of no use. Then of what use, it may be asked, is it to the sick? It gives the sick such confidence in themselves that they are not frightened by opinions of disease, for disease itself is an impudent opinion. Guided by it, I throw off the feelings of the sick and impart to mind my own, which are those of perfect health. The explanation I make destroys their disease. I am to the sick as a captain to his crew. When storms arise, dangers thicken, and destruction seems inevitable. He understands his business, has confidence in himself, inspires the crew with his own spirit, and finally brings the ship safe into port.
There you go. So talk to somebody next to you and explain what that just meant to you. I'm doing a Joe Dispenza. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It was very clear. Let them see what they come up with. You. I know, it gets them so upset. I know, it makes total sense to me. Well,
But that's what we do.
Right. Right. We do this, but except for we talk to people. It comes from being in the unknown to go, like he said in the first video. Let's see what they say. All right, guys. So let me know. Yeah. Do you need a few more minutes? Let's talk on Georgia. Yeah, no.
1 minute.
Are you guys sleeping at home? I didn't know you were there. Did I hit you in the wrong place? I just put my thing down.
I know, right? We hardly ever have this. This is a new.
I'm glad I didn't hit you. You know where? Because I just.
No, Rita, where?
The family jewels. I don't know. There's something about this class, though. It's been crazy from the very beginning.
Yeah, right. I think it's Quimby floating around.
I know. We got to be careful.
Okay, let's wrap
All right.
up. Wrap
Okay.
up.
So, my dears, I figure if you can explain it to each other, Jamie, come back. I
Come
figure
back.
if you can explain it to each other, then you understand it. So, did you understand what he said? Anybody want to share? Or were you talking about something else?
No, they were
No,
talking about that.
I
Come on.
looked like you were. Look, it's like Patrick was just saying, we're not trying to like make you do this. We're just trying to tell you where this philosophy came from, the roots of this philosophy. It's not about that you even have to agree with it. It's just a matter of just understanding it because it will give you a deeper understanding of where we're at right now, right? And we take what we can use and we reject what we don't want. It has to make sense to our logical mind, or we're not gonna be able to use it if it doesn't make sense to us. So, go ahead, Charles.
If, in a pragmatic way, I think that it makes a lot of sense. You said a great fact that he had over 12,000 clients.
Healings
12,000 healings. So that's a lot of times.
over 15 years.
So over 15 years. So he definitely was an expert because it takes 10,000 hours in order to become an expert in that. Plus, he used mesmerism, which is also the so he knew how to talk to the subconscious mind as well. So with him being able to have people in a trance and the confidence that he had because of him being an expert in this field, you don't know what type of skills that he had as far as being able to read someone, whether like what type of faces they would make or, what they were feeling at the time, whether it be anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, you know what I mean? Jealousy, whatever it was, he would be able to intuitively tell what type of disease that they had, talk to their subconscious mind, but then have that confidence, that knowing of what spirit can truly do, and then being able to transfer that confidence through his knowledge of talking to the subconscious mind to someone else. I mean, goodness gracious, that man was definitely powerful within his words. It doesn't say anything about him being a necessarily the orator of that time, but man, he didn't have to be in order to be that healer that would be able to do such tremendous things.
Right, that's great.
It wasn't an orator. That's
Somebody just said, thank you. Ron, yes, it's the energy of the teachers. Oh, talking about us joking around. Is that what he's talking? Okay, Ron. Which Ron? Stover or LeMay? It sounds like LeMay.
That's a LeMay.
All right. So anybody else, did you understand how he did it? How his method by listening to that? Anybody else?
Understand.
His method of what you talked about.
So he basically tuned into the person, and he could see where they're, he tuned into the troubled mind, and he could see what was going on in the body from that,
Right. And then what did he do?
This dis-ease. Then he eradicated it, and he basically spoke it he spoke what it was, and that was, by speaking it, is what eradicated.
And then changed it, like said, no, it's really this. You're really perfect. You're really whole. You're however we
Right,
used his
right.
terminology.
And what we say in this day and age is that it's a lie. This is a lie. What's happening is a lie. We're leaving out, too, that he's working in the quantum field
Right.
that we know now. But I'm just saying that what we would call in this one is that yes, the appearance is here. Yes, the condition is here. But in a spiritual, take it all the way back to first cause, it has no power.
Right. Remember
Has
in the
none.
first video when he said, I'm going to take you above the earth where there's nothing? The quantum field. The unknown. But Joe Dispenza talks about the unknown. The absolute we talk about in the science of mind, which is a place that's never been touched by anything. It's just pure energy. It's pure God energy, right? Yeah.
So we talked about how it sounds, at least to me, like spiritual mind treatment, minus the whole conversation that we would have from a practitioner to the person that you're treating, and the power of your belief and you speaking that you're healed and you receiving that and believing that it is done. The one thing that you did bring up that I also questioned was how do we get where he doesn't speak about how that person manifests the disease in the beginning?
Well, according to him,
It's
all like opinion, like a physician's opinion, or being scared to death by a priest, being told you're damned. And most of the people that are coming to him were coming from really steeped, like religious backgrounds of fear and damnation and that kind of thing. He blamed that on it a lot. Yeah.
So that is what started manifesting symptoms within a
Symptoms,
person, just
right,
being
yeah.
around that type of environment.
Yeah, that's what I think it was what he's saying, which I think there might have been more to it.
On the movie Pollyanna that we finished last night, it was a little slow starting, but we didn't finish it. But I love this terminology that was used in it. They were afraid of Sundays. This was what they were talking about. They said, any day of the week but Sunday, because the minister would get up and teach damnation and sit there and say, you come in the middle of the week, but you come in, 6 days you're out there, and death is coming, and the little kids are like this. And so they called it, interestingly enough, I just remembered that. She said, I hate dinners on the cooks. I hate dinners on Sundays. We call it sour stomach Sundays. And that's because everything that was done in the morning caused a physical effect at night, that the food didn't taste as good because it caused a sourness in the disposition, is what they were saying.
Yeah, that's good.
So I think with this, with Phineas, I think it is very close to this idea of the quantum that he worked in. And so let's talk about two things. Cause, I just want to say cause, and he didn't care about cause, no? I mean, what does it matter if you're sick? In reality, what's it matter to some degree?
It didn't really matter where it came from.
Exactly. But
What mattered is that you adopted an idea or a belief about it that was manifesting in your body physically. That's what mattered. Not like who did it. I don't
Right,
think
so-
he sat there and said, the priest did this to you or whatever. He
So
was talking that way in his own mind. But
My last thing is about why we talk in our sessions. Because I heard somebody say, but the difference is we do talk. We don't sit there and stare at each other and do that. The reason we did is because it's called the courtroom of the mind. I believe that this was a long time ago. And we've have a lot of installation, a lot of programming since that time to where we're at now. And we're at a place where we need to go in, and so that you can unload your fears, your stuff that's coming up, whatever it is, and put it out on the table, as our mentor said, put it out on the table. Remember, he used to put it out on the table so we can see it. And now let's get rid of it.
so, what? He was able to intuit the condition and uses his energy
yeah.
to place the cure in his patients. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's exactly. He told them the truth. He said the truth is the cure, and the truth is that you're perfect, you're whole, you're complete, you've never been touched by anything. That's what we do in treatment. But the only difference is he wasn't talking about the law of mind and action that we talk about. He didn't talk about like putting it into an energy that's going to move it into healing. He was doing it. He was actually in a conversation, which we don't do in Science of Mind. We don't go into a conversation about it. We go into a conversation during the talking part, but once we start treating, we're not in that conversation. We've removed ourselves from the conversation or the relative world, and we've gone to the absolute. Yeah.
And then one other thought that I had was that it sounds like his method's not really transferable. Like you have to be a clairvoyant in order to work in the method that he has, or believe in clairvoyance in order to treat somebody without even having a conversation, just by intuiting it with the feeling that you get or
Right.
the
And
receptivity
yet-
of thought. But Science of Mind
And
is.
yet, when you get good in the room with somebody, you're not. It's not that you're clairvoyant, but you can actually see past their BS. You can see, right? You can see past their BS. And is that clairvoyancy? Somebody's saying something, but you're intuiting something else because you're really in tune with what's happening with that person. So I know for myself that's true. Sometimes I don't even say it. But
And it's a feeling, not an expression.
so, but yeah,
Because
he's-
people really hide stuff well when they're their stuff. So you just have to open up to that. Yeah.
Right, that's good. Okay, so Quimby is said to have healed over 12,000 in his 15 years of practice. He believed that the two beginnings of wisdom, or God, were priests and doctors. He believed priests and doctors were the main source of people's wrong beliefs, which in turn caused disease. Because does that make sense? Yeah. At that time, well, even now, think about it. Go into like a real fundamental Baptist church and listen to the preacher telling everybody they're going to hell. No, what?
They didn't have tweets back then.
No, they didn't have tweets. Yes.
It makes even more sense now. So we had a niche. I mean, when you are speaking to people that are only, or when you're speaking with people that are getting their beliefs from priests and doctors, and then you see these people and you have over 12,000 clients from these two groups, then heck, of course, you might be able to narrow it down to, oh, this person's this way and this way and this way and looks this way, and then boom, you have this, you potentially have this disease, or you potentially have these, and then speak truth and lighten it down. That's fascinating.
It is fascinating, yes.
Well, I mean, doctors back then bled people. I mean, they really didn't have a clue at all. So was Quimby
They didn't even have
religious?
anesthesia.
Was he raised in any religion?
He left it all behind. He was not against religion to begin with, but he if you remember in one of the beginning slides, he said, I don't want anybody to think that what I'm talking about has anything to do with a religion or a creed. He didn't consider what he
Yeah.
did. He considered it a science. Science was the truth, and it was God, and it was scientific, and he could prove it.
Well, because
So-
back then the priests and the doctors were all into
Well, the
dogma.
superstition, there was
Yeah,
a
it
lot of
was dogma,
superstition
yeah.
too, right? And he did not believe in superstition or any of that.
And they didn't have a clue, or they wouldn't be sticking something in somebody and bleeding all their blood, thinking if I can take all the blood out of you, then the disease
Right.
will fall on the floor. I mean, come on.
So he said, Quimby knew if he could change a man's belief to truth, he could cure him.
That's it. No.
Okay. So this is a testimony I just cut and pasted because it was one of his earlier patients, the dressers, who were the people that put his work together too. Miss Julius Dresser, who came to him as a young girl after 6 years of hopeless illness, her case given up by all the doctors, thus describes his procedure. He seemed to know that I had come to him feeling that he was a last resort and with little faith in him and his mode of treatment. But instead of telling me that I was not sick, he sat beside me and explained to me all my sickness was, how I got into the condition, and the way I could have been taken out of it through the right understanding. He seemed to see through the situation from the beginning and explained the cause and effect so clearly that I could see a little of what he meant. He continued to explain the case from day to day. So in other words, he did it more than once. Like he didn't just do it once and it was over. I felt the spirit and life that came with his words, and I found myself gaining steadily. And he had charisma. I mean, he was able to really be with a person, and really he believed in what he was doing. He was convicted in what he was doing, right? So
Well, this is exactly what Dr. Sarnoff does. He's the guy with the bad, if you have a bad back, that
did he write that book about healing the back?
yes.
Yeah.
And basically it's
I
just
remember that
about
book.
talking about it. It's like if you actually just start talking about it, that's the healing. That's how you heal your back. And people have gone to his lectures and stuff, and their backs have been cured. Just by recognizing, oh, this is what it is.
Right. Well, did I ever tell you how I got healed of my sciatica? Did I ever tell you guys that? I was working at the, and he's still around. His name is Dr. Treffelli, Michael Treffelli. I was working at the Pomona School of Osteopath as a standardized patient. And I had serious sciatica for I think it was how long, Patrick? 9 months?
Forever
It
and a
was
day.
awful. I mean, I was walking like this. It was horrible. I mean, it was horrible. Anyway, it was 9 months that I had this thing. But so I went I was doing a case as a standardized patient, and there was this guy there who's an osteopath. His name is Staffelli. And
Explain standardized
a standardized patient is when you go into the medical school and you act out a patient so that they can practice their interviewing skills and their actually their physical.
They're actually graded.
Right,
on
and they're
it
graded
when
on
we
it.
go in
Yeah,
there, so.
Patrick and I did it for a long time. Anyway, so he said, "Do you mind if I work with you, Rita?" And he said, "I think I can help you with your back." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." So he took me in for an hour and a half. He laid me on the table and he started talking to me. He started telling me, asking me things like, "What happened when you were 15? How does it feel to be an actress in Los Angeles at 45 trying to make it?" And he would just and then he would touch a part of my body, and then he would just keep asking me these questions, and I would answer him. And I got off the table and I never had it again. I mean, it went away slowly, but it was gone.
Because we went to the belief that you felt old at 45 to be an actress in
plus-
Hollywood, and you were divorcing your husband.
Plus, I had all
and
that
blah, blah,
luggage
blah,
of
blah.
divorce and everything that I was carrying around with me, right? So, yeah, and he went through all these things, but he did similar type of thing. He just kept asking me questions and then and explaining to me, and then I don't even remember what he said. And I remember he manipulated me a little because he was an osteopath, but not anything different than anybody else had done. I mean, I'd been to everything from chiropractor to acupuncture to sports medicine to everything. Just, yeah. So anyway, there's still people like this around, and there are people that are medical intuitives. I know that, that they can do this type of thing. Yeah.
But it seems, just listening to you, it's also not just looking at the physicalness of your medical condition, but looking at the conditions, the limitations of the mind to kind of put that together.
Right.
With what is causing your physical pain, maybe.
Right. It was all mental.
Yes.
And mental and emotional.
Emotional.
And that's what he was saying before, is that people think it's created in the physical world, and they're forgetting that behind the physical world there's a whole emotional, mental thing happening. And instead everybody's so trying to fix, like Joe Dispenza says, trying to fix matter with matter when
Explain Quimby to me, and through that, how would he have done you?
probably
Just like that.
very similar to this. He would have explained to me. He would have read me, first of all, and that's what that guy was doing, was reading me. And then he would have explained to me that is a false belief. That is something that was placed there because of blah, 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 right? That, you're feeling, I think this is being caused, you're carrying the weight of your marriage or whatever, your divorce, and, stuff like that. And then explain to me. And if the person is convincing enough and he makes you see it and you get it, you're gonna shift.
But he doesn't talk to
Yeah.
them as
No, he talks
Yeah,
to them
he
after.
did-
He doesn't talk to.
Right.
He doesn't. He talks to them after. He doesn't talk to them when he's reading them. He's not asking them questions like Dr. Treffelli was doing. He's not asking them questions. Quimby's just sitting there going, he's reading them from a clairvoyant state. He's just reading it all. But then once he gets the message, then he's telling it back. That's what.
And here's an interesting thing about practitioner work to relate the two is that we can be in a conversation, and I've been many of times all the way to the last 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden there'll be this burst, or they'll cry, or they're doing whatever and all of a sudden it'll come out, and it had nothing to do with what you thought you came in there for, and that is why asking good questions is the key to healing. Because if you just keep asking questions, it will come. That's why I learn, especially in inner child work. You keep letting that child have a voice. You let that energy have a voice. It will come all the way and surface up if we give it the space to come forward. And it's an energy. The inner child is an energy, not the little kid coming up to, yes, it's based on but experience of that, so that's how we relate to the inner child. But I'm saying it's the same energy that's coming forth, the same way he probably didn't do much talking to Rita. He felt over there and then just said, oh, wow. And then then I would imagine that energy came up and went, I feel old and I feel this, but I'm not. I can't carry this anymore. I can't carry the guilt of my ex-husband anymore. And the stud that I'm about to marry named Patrick, I can't stand this anymore. And then all of a sudden it was just like released at the thought. Except forget the stud part. I'm sure that did.
Well, I mean,
that's like pushing the old.
Like Quimby says, truth is the cure. Right. When you hear the truth, the healing takes place. When you actually embody the truth, that's when the healing takes place. Yes, somebody has something to say. Wrong way. The negative energy and condemnation of doctrinal churches turns me off. Thank you, Ronald LeMay. It's true. It's done a lot of damage in the world, right? And it certainly wasn't what Jesus intended. I know that. So I was going to say something
stimulating
about practitioner, but I can't remember what it was. It'll come to me. Okay. On his own death. He didn't believe in death. He believed that.
How did that work for him?
Well, no, he believed that we're still all here. Like it's not such. He said it wasn't really a There's a passage in here on death, but
don't do it. Don't do it, Rita. Don't go into the book. Don't go near the book.
Well, what I read was he felt like death. There was no such thing as death. That we're all here. Like all the people that are gone are still here. That there isn't. It's just like a change. It's a change. Another dimension. Another plane of action. I am more than ever convinced of the truth of my theory. I am perfectly willing for the change myself, but I know that I shall be right here with you just the same as I've always been. I do not dread the change any more than if I were going on a trip to Philadelphia. So
These days I'm
this is the saddest part about Phineas Quimby. He died from overwork. His son said he would not stop. He was relentless. And basically, he said he got to a point where he could not ward off disease himself. But think about it. He was taking on he was an empath too, because he was taking on everybody's energy, right? And if he didn't give himself a chance to replenish himself, he was like driven. He was driven, and he never gave himself a chance to rest. And his son said he could not resist disease anymore because he was just too exhausted. So that was what was written on his tombstone. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. For if ever a man did lay down his life for others, that man was Phineas Quimby, Parkhurst Quimby.
Wow.
Yeah, we're not done yet, though. It didn't say what he died of. Exhaustion, that's all I got from it. Yeah, he was young, 66 to 1802 to 66, right?
In those days, that's kind of old. It's old.
84, yeah.
I know,
but
right?
think about it. Emerson was like, Emerson had a hard life. I mean, as far as all the loss that he had in his life and all of that. But this guy worked himself to the bone. I mean, he just was like constantly. I mean, he was obsessed. Let's face it. 12,000 patients, and it doesn't say that like. And that's just the ones he healed. There were probably more, right? There were probably some that he didn't heal, right?
Right.
So, He discovered that belief alone, he's called the father of New Thought or the founder of New Thought, so don't get mixed up, it's either one. Mostly the founder. He discovered that belief alone makes sick, and it is belief alone that heals. He spent the last years of his life in healing work through mental means alone, and he became as known as the founder of New Thought in America. So when you get that on your test, you'll know who it was. The one you take when you're a practitioner. All right.
Okay. 7.
Well, it's funny because I didn't get a lot of this when I was I got a really good education, but in my earlier years of studying, I didn't get all this. Well, they were studying to be ministers, so it was a little different. But the practitioner panels, yeah, they knew their history really well. The omnipresent wisdom, the warm, loving, these are his principles, the warm, loving creator of all the universe, whose works are good, whose substance is an invisible reality. So, God is good, right? God is good. That's all that he knew. The real man whose life is eternal in the invisible kingdom of God, whose senses are spiritual and function independently of matter. So behind everything is spirit. The visible world is the shadow of wisdom's amusements. That is, nature is only the outward projection or manifestation of an inward activity far more real than and enduring. So everything behind everything is spirit. Everything else is it's not an illusion, It's real enough, but it's not real in the sense that it can be changed, right? It's a shadow, yeah, and the shadow can be changed. It's liquid.
But we think the conditions are separate. For instance, that somebody gets sick or something that happened out there that came into here, and now we're dealing with it. When it makes sense because the invisible is invisible to us. We have to go by feeling it, which makes sense that we would buy the condition first as first cause sometimes instead of, which isn't the truth. It came from the invisible, but it's so real. That
it is real.
But it's so real, meaning that it looks like that's the God, and we forget the first cause that's within us. That's why we don't go to first cause first, because we see that. And we go, oh, that's that. Oh, that's immediate. That's, ow, stomach ache. Instead of going, okay, stomach ache, first cause. I know nothing of a stomach ache. I'm whole. So
spiritual matter or fine interpenetrating substance directly responsive to thought and subconsciously embodying in the flesh the fears, beliefs, hopes, errors, and joys of the mind. Spiritual matter or fine interpenetrating substance. What is that?
where are we at?
The field. It's the energy. Like we're all energy, right? And it's responsive to our thoughts and subconsciously embodying in the flesh fears. It's just like it's liquid, moldable substance, right? Disease is due to false reasoning in regard to sensations, which man unwittingly develops by impressing wrong thoughts and mental pictures upon the subconscious spiritual matter. So in other words, disease is due to false reasoning in regard to sensations. What does that say to you? So, yeah, you get a pain, and then... but it's coming from impressing by wrong thoughts upon the spiritual matter. So you're having wrong thoughts, so it's creating the pain. And that's why in spiritual mind treatment, one of the things is if treatment for pain is like, if you can tell somebody right where the pain is, God is just revealing itself right where the pain is. It's a really powerful, I do that sometimes when I have a pain, like it can instantaneously heal. As disease is due to false reasoning, so health is due to the knowledge of the truth. To remove disease permanently, it is necessary to know the cause, the error which led to it. The explanation is the cure. Now, we don't always think you need to know the cause, though. I mean, if you're sitting down with somebody and they keep going, I don't know how I got this belief about, being poor, let's say. Do you think that they have to figure out what it was that they heard that made them feel that or is it enough? Is it enough to just do the realization treatment? Yes and no, maybe.
Exactly. I was just about to say that because you do inner child work all the time, yeah. And that's what to actually get at the root cause of a problem, to get at the first event in which that person felt those type of emotions, you know what I mean? So if you deal with, it's kind of like you want to fix the sink, but the well is poison. Like I always use that example, but it's like you want to look at that and say that this is the problem, but actually it's because your mom gave you spankings or your dad said you weren't lovable.
Do you think you need to know that it's because your mom gave you spankings that you're that?
It's just no, but the programming has to be the programming for the subconscious mind has to continuously be done in order for that person to change. It's not just gonna. I mean, it can be. It can. I mean, especially with people like Quimby, it can be done simultaneously. And Emerson, you know what I mean?
I just don't.
Not
I don't
Emerson,
want to
but,
get. I just don't want to get
not Emerson,
trapped
but,
in the idea that somebody
Ernest.
has to figure out where something originated in order to have a healing, because sometimes you don't know. What do you think, Reverend Patrick?
I think that it's a yes and a no. It depends on the experience. But here's the deal. I'm with Joe because Joe believes that that's dangerous to go back to the actual story, Dr. Joe, because he feels that you're addicted to that, and that's just bringing it back up. I actually disagree.
The feelings.
But it's the feelings. And if anybody's ever worked with me, we go back to the story, and the story. I mean, I've told you everything about things that have happened to me, my sexual abuse and everything standing up here. But here's the deal. It wasn't until I understood what the little boy felt and the energy that I carried with me, the energetic. That's what we're working, and that's where Dr. Joe comes in. It's very exciting because that's where we're at in our development right now. That, yes, it's okay if I go, oh, look at Patrick, what happened to my little boy. But that also causes me more sympathy. When I go in and then I go, what did you feel? Then all of a sudden we can go in and transmute that energy from first cause, and the little boy just goes, oh, and then we integrate.
Well, yeah, and maybe I'm saying the same thing, but first of all, Ron LeMay says, just know the truth. Just know the truth, no need for the story. Okay, gotcha, Ron, yes. So this is the thing.
Thank you, Ron.
You don't want to get trapped in the story, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
That's what he said.
and sometimes it's enough to say, I feel really inadequate. Okay, but don't you know who you really truly are? And let's talk about that feeling of inadequate. What's going on? And if they don't know where it came from, I don't think you have to know where it came from in order to have a healing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it might help for some people.
I think it definitely.
And most of the time people do know where it came from, but that they do know. And it will come up. But I wouldn't want to think that it was like you had to find out in order to. I mean,
know
to
what
me,
you're saying.
otherwise, you know what I'm saying.
Some people have blocked out things.
Some people need it though.
Yes,
But some
I
people
did.
don't. Like they just want to
Yeah.
know the truth about themselves, and they've right, right. So
But I think that what happens is that we get trapped in the story, and then we keep telling the story. So the real quick one, it really is quick, is that when I went back and found that in that cause with the little boy, I kept telling the story that my dad was in the dark room. I kept telling dark room, dark room, dark room. That's the only story I told through every party, through every beer, through every thing that, oh, my dad was in a dark room. But it wasn't until you found out, well, what was wrong with the dark room? Oh, that sexuality. Oh, it kind of felt good. Boom. And then everything got broken. Then the energy got broken. Do you see what I mean? But if you tell the story for 10 years, then you're stuck in the story and not what the little boy really wants to say or the energetic.
well, it's
Go
like-
ahead, Dr.
Like
Quimby.
it's like let's say somebody has cancer.
Right.
I would hate to think that they would have to figure out what caused their cancer in order for them to be healed. You know what I mean? Like, it might not come down to that. It might not. It might be just enough for them to start to love themselves and start to go to the truth. It's like also like you can get trapped in making somebody feel like they're to blame for some reason, or
Exactly.
they've been holding on to something where the only thing you really should be doing is helping them to love themselves, helping them to realize how spectacular they are and how perfect they are and whole they are and wholeness. And so I think but I also get how some people need to know, when I was a little boy and I was a little girl, my dad told me I was stupid. Okay, so there's the perfect one. My dad told me I was stupid. So, I know that. He told me I was stupid. And that's probably why I felt stupid for so long. So I had to go back and realize that I'm not stupid. I never was stupid. But would I needed to know that? Obviously it was very obvious to my mind. But would I have needed to make that connection? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, I think,
Everybody's different.
for me, it's good to know, to have insight into like where it's coming from, because then I can consciously, dismiss it and say, and then focus on bringing in the healing energy around it, as opposed to, because if I have no idea, then I could be unconsciously reproducing it all the time.
Right. Or, like Ernest Holmes says, you have to, you can't heal somebody if they're not willing to let go of the cause. You can also say, I don't know what the cause is, but I'm willing to let go of whatever it is because I want to live my life fully. I want to live my life abundantly. I want to live, and you make a decision to do that.
Right. And self-love.
I think every single
Yeah.
person is just different. I really
Absolutely.
do. And yes, it does help sometimes. Yes, Reverend Rita. Ron LeMay, you want an A.
As a practitioner, as a minister, how do you guys deal with that? With, whether is this a person that wants to know or is it enough to talk about self-love?
Depends on the person. Both.
Both.
I
I think that if you go in with the energy, like I usually, before anybody comes in, I energize the atmosphere of the room so that when you walk in, it's already in that kind of safe space. But I think that what's happening is that, I can look at somebody immediately and know that what's behind that energy. And I think it's a little bit of both. I think we're in a world that we still need our spiritual counseling that we didn't have before. And you have to be powerful enough as a practitioner or a minister, be powerful enough to say, to call upon the truth and let first cause come in and really do the work. And I think that's where a good practitioner, where they just don't go, I don't want to say anything because I want to keep them all in. No, what you need to say is, oh yeah, guess what? We're going to first cause now. I know, but are you ready? Because if you're ready, then let's go. But if you're not, then we have a little more discussing to do. Let's treat for that. And when we start to get that kind of excitement about this work, and I have to say, this is exciting work. This is so
sure.
like it reminds me. If I was into sports, which I'm not, this is what sports, I see what people, they go, come on, man, get on that's how I feel like right now. First cause, we're going in. That's how I'm starting to feel about this thing called spiritual mind treatment. What do you have to say about that, Ron LeMay?
All right, we're going to keep going. Next question. To know the truth about life is therefore the sovereign remedy of all ills. The truth Jesus came to declare. Jesus knew how he cured, and Dr. Quimby, without taking any credit to himself as a discoverer, believed that he understood and practiced the same great truth or science. Quimby was an original, and nowhere is it written that he studied others other than when he began as a mesmerist. I think that's where I got that from. And I think these came from Spirits in Rebellion or somewhere. I don't remember where I got these. I went backwards, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, didn't we just do that?
Influence of religious science and Ernest Holmes. The whole science of mind philosophy is based on the premise that to change our life, we must change our thinking or what we believe. This is the whole purpose of spiritual mind treatment. Right. And then Ernest wrote, one of the first things a practitioner has to do is to separate the belief from the believer. From the standpoint of a spiritual man, disease, poverty, unhappiness, and misery are neither person, place, nor thing. So it is the first thing you do, is that person has a belief. And so you have to separate that belief from them and make them realize that they are the believer and they get the opportunity to just choose a new belief. And you're going to treat for the new belief, whatever that is, the opposite of what the old belief was, right? That it was keeping them impoverished or disease-filled or whatever.
And to remind them how powerful you are. That's the most important thing, to remind them that they are master manifestors. And that's how we can do with our friends as well. Oh my God, I know it's really rough right now, but guess what? You're a master manifestor. Well, how can you say that? I know that to be true because look where we come from. We couldn't help but have that energy. That's how powerful we are. We're master manifestors. And sometimes you need another person, to say, by the way, in case you forgot, Peggy, I just want to remind you, I know what you're going through, but behind you and within you is this first cause. So whatever's going on with you right now, Peggy, you're complete. You're done. Get out.
Okay, some Quimby quotes for thought.
Drop the mic, she says. Ron LeMay.
Ron LeMay has something else? Oh. He's got an A from me today because you knew. Okay, where's he going? Okay, no, it's all right. Go.
Yeah, he's just in the other room. He can hear you.
It's hot in here again. Quimby quotes for thought. For we are mere machines regulated by wisdom or opinion. It reminds me of an Ernest Holmes quote about the whole world is hypnotized by what other people think. Right? So are we machines regulated by wisdom or opinion? No, we are spontaneous beings that get to choose exactly what we believe. The world of opinions is the old world. The world of science is the new world. And like I said, when he talks about science, he's talking about truth or God. I never make war with medicine, but with opinions. Interesting. The world is a state of mind where man creates whatever he understands from what he hears and sees. The world is a state of mind. And man creates whatever he understands from what he hears and what he sees. So we're looking out and we're creating from what we see and hear. And it becomes our state of mind. Yes, Ron
This one's
LeMay.
a little more, because I just read
Almost
it.
sounds like two different concepts being discussed from a practitioner point of view and the client's point. I don't understand what that's a complete.
Practitioner.
What does he mean? Almost sounds like two different concepts being discussed. There's probably a delay from a practitioner point of view and the client's point. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, you're going to have to explain what
He's
that meant.
recovering.
And we know you're whole, complete, harmonious, and balanced, and standing and walking perfectly with no pain, because right where the pain is, God is. Don't you forget it.
Thank you,
So
Phyllis
it is.
Quimby.
That's right. Ron just had surgery. He's doing good, though. There is no intelligence in anything that can be seen by the eye. One can only see the workings of intelligence and matter. So in other words, matter is not intelligent. It's just a reflection of mind, right? Cease from arguing about what you do not understand until you learn what you're talking about. That's a hard one. I love that. Let's write that one down. We can use it. What you do not understand until you learn what you were talking about. Write that one down better.
You got it written already.
Man has analyzed everything but himself, which to himself is a complete wilderness. It's true, though, right?
That is very true.
Priests and physicians, these men stand to society as a mesmerizer to his subject. Yeah.
He was a little bitter towards the end. of
No.
that. No.
He just saw the suffering that was inflicted on people because of it. I mean, really. No, he wasn't. Just to their opinions. The opinions.
Let me tell you something about Rob Jones. Not only does he run the camera, but he's trying to keep up with Ron LeMay. and he didn't. He said, "I didn't sign up for this. That I was going to be dictating all night."
Well, that's why you need somebody to chat over there. No, then you won't pay attention. We need somebody. This is where we use somebody that's called a intern. That gets to sit in the class, but they're really working over there. You guys are taking it and you paid for it, so. And plus you need the credit. God or wisdom has never made anything to torment mankind.
Oh, nice.
I know, right? This is like, that's so beautiful. If you could just tell somebody that you're not meant to be tormented. To believe a thing is to make it. To know that you exist is nothing, but to know that what disturbs you is of great value to everyone. To know that you exist is nothing, okay? But to know what disturbs you is of great value to everyone. You can make a lot of trouble by what disturbs you, right? To teach is to adapt a language that will convey a principle to another. This is what I am trying to do. No. For 20 years, I have never said one word to a patient, I love this, which, if he believed, would make him worse or cause him one moment's pain or misery. I have tried it and know that the principle is right, never to say to a person anything that will, if he believed, make him the least disappointed or grieved. If you cannot leave a happy impression, do not leave a bad one.
Bam, Pollyanna. Pollyanna.
No,
Thank
but
you,
that
Dr.
is so
Quimby.
true. If you really want anything came out of your mouth, if you just said to yourself, is this going to really help this person? Or is it going to, leave them with pain? Right, Thumper said it, right?
Thumper.
And that's it. I was going to play that again, but I'm not. So, do you want to hear the invitation again? The one we did at the beginning? Yeah, let's listen to it now. I got to find it, so talk to yourselves.
Ron LeMay. It seemed that there was some confusion about the healing process. The healing process in the practice, in the believer and the belief. Yeah, we separate the belief and the believer. There's only one healing thing, and that is when we come from first cause. And as we sit there with a client, call them whatever you want.
Go ahead, honey. Are you done?
I was just about to let the music take me into my You know what? This night, I don't know what to say. Ron, well, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right. See if it sounds different to you now.
Do you wish, reader, to take a trip to the world beyond the narrow limit of man's wisdom? Give me your hand and close your eyes from the natural world and rise into space out of sight and hearing of the bustle of the world.
Quantum.
View the vast space and sit till you see things come as it were, standing on nothing.
Enter the unknown.
See the things created by the Almighty Power and things created by man. Look upon the earth and ask what the inhabitants know of this state. This is the world they fear and falsely worship. I have said I differ from all others. I have seen the effect of their beliefs. I have broken their hold on my mind, passed their finite bounds, and landed in an open space. Now return and make your knowledge practical by destroying the beliefs of men in their opinions. My theory, being in opposition to the world, is based on the fact that man's misery is in his belief. The world is in opposition to truth. Give me your hand and close your eyes from the natural world.
Thank you. Let's get on our magic carpet ride. This is that, Ron LeMay. This is that part where we enter into the quantum world, that space. And then he says, bring it back to this world. And that's what happens is in spiritual mind treatment, we go into, from that place that we already are, and we sit in there, and then we leave the opposition. We're in the world, but not of it. And then we go into that. And then when we return, that's where the healing can only take place in first cause. And until we become, and I think that one of our, duties, should we care to take them, is tasks that is to get to know first cause intimately. We can do it through meditation. We can get it through the vibration of it. But just to say, or just when you're walking on the path, say, what is first cause? Let me feel first cause right now. Let me be with first cause. And even as I'm saying that right now, my whole body is vibrating. Because there's an allowance to say, I don't know what it is. It's invisible. It's a feeling.
God is a feeling.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
not an intellectual experience, right? It's a feeling. And we all know God just as we know God ourselves. We can't know God as someone else knows God, right? So it is a feeling. Yeah.
Let me know when you
It's a
want me to give them their
presence.
assignment.
Yeah. Any more questions about Phineas and how it relates to what we do now, which is not what we do now, but based on what we do now, or yeah.
Well, now it
based
seems to
on
be
what we do.
closer
Yeah.
to
Yeah, historically, and the whole idea of the belief, which is the basis of our teaching, it is done unto you as you believe, and the spiritual mind healing. What?
we have words for it now.
Yeah. Right. No. No.
Right.
It was faith.
And
But it was logical. I mean, it was logical to Phineas Quimby. It made sense to him. He could reason with someone, like he could feel it and then take it in and then reason it back to the person in a logical fashion that they understood. Right? So if you can be logical with somebody when you're in a room with them as a practitioner and really help them to see that what they're believing is false about themselves, right? That they're in charge of that belief, and that we're going to now take that and we're going to switch it to what's really true about you, and then when you do your treatment, right? I don't know. Makes sense to me totally. So if you care, there is if you have spirits in rebellion, the chapter on Phineas Quimby is very thorough if you want to read it and learn more about him, and yeah.
well, I think
Okay.
that Phineas actually has seen that he lived a lot in that quantum field. That's what
That's where he spent.
but he didn't know, but it didn't matter because he healed 12,000 people without knowing what the quantum field was.
No, he called it God. He called it wisdom.
Yeah, he called it
science.
an energy. He called it whatever he called it. So we're moving on from Phineas Quimby, and we're going into Thomas Troward, which will be so logical. You guys,
Very powerful class tonight. Thank you.
let's
Ron
all wave
LeMay.
at Ron LeMay. We're
We
so
love
happy.
you,
We love you,
Ron.
and thank
you.
you.
Get an A tonight.
And we love Michelle too for being your beautiful self-caring caretaker yesterday, and we love her. And DJ, is DJ on too? Hey DJ.
Hey, DJ.
You haven't been chatting, that's why we didn't. Oh, okay. I had a feeling. Okay, good. I'm glad you're on, DJ and Ron, because here's your assignment. So next week is Thomas Troward. We're all going to read chapter 1, the starting point, and that's what we're going to be discussing together. And now I'm going to divide up the whole book so that we don't have to read the whole book, but each person's going to get a chapter. And I have chosen it for you, which is great. And this is what you do. And then if you're not going to be here, which I know Sue's not going to, write a little paragraph just to describe something so that we can read it. So it's just that you're going to go, yeah, I read chapter 5, blah, 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 and this is what I got out of it. Some of the highlights that I got out of it can be very short, a paragraph. It doesn't matter as long as we can get the highlights. And then you don't have to write it if you're here because you'll say it. Chapter 1, the starting point is everyone. The self-contemplation of spirit is Melissa. Chapter 2. Chapter 3, the divine ideal, goes to Sue Wood.
The divine ideal.
That was
Definitely
on
tell
the-
us what it was a big thing on the ministerial.
Okay, chapter 4. Oh, chapter 3.
Nobody knew what it was.
Rita?
What?
Right in the middle of these I don't want them calling me this week. No, just kidding. Chapter 4. This is the Rita and Patrick at home, just so you'll know. Okay, 4. The manifestation of the life principle. Chapter 4 is Jamie. And number 5, five, the personal factor. Who do you think that goes to? Emma.
These are all important concepts.
And I picked this one out especially. The standard of personality. Charles. 6. The denouement. Is it my glasses?
Denouement.
The denouement of the creative oh no, I'm sorry. That's Charles. Charles got 2. How did that happen? Yeah, I will give it to you if you don't. Standard of personality. I just want to make sure I didn't leave anything out. Personality. Race, thought, and new thought is Ron Stover. And then the conclusion is Ron LeMay. No, DJ is the divine offering. Oh, Peggy. That's right. Oh, good. Never mind. You're number 6. God.
I can't even follow him.
I've got it written. 5 is personal factor. Let's go back. 6 is the standard of personality, Charles. Race, thought, and new thought is Ron Stover. I'll tell him. And Peggy is 8. Denouement of the creative process. Now we're on target here. I don't know how Charles got twice. Conclusion is Ron LeMay. The divine offering is DJ. And ourselves in the divine offering, chapter 11, is Gina. Does everybody know the chapter?
But Charles doesn't have the book. Did you get it?
Oh. I thought you did get it.
No, he doesn't have the book. All right, just scan the
Okay.
chapter.
But just chapter 1, everybody does 1, and then you do your own chapter. Ron's writing again.
Oh, it's the creative process.
Creative
and
process
the individual.
of the individual.
We had
We
it,
had
but
it,
we
but-
ran out.
Yeah.
I don't know why we ran out, but
So isn't that, yeah. So here, yeah, so this is what's really cool about it. We're going to all discuss the first one after we go through some history and get to know Troward. Then we'll discuss chapter 1 together because we've all read it. Then we'll go into our individual ones. And if you're not going to be here and you're going to be online, then you need to send me a little summary of what you got out of that chapter so we can read it. Yes.
Are you gonna have us do like don't go anywhere? Are you gonna have us go do like a couple minute speech or something of that nature?
Yeah, whatever it takes you to, 3 minutes to explain it. Oh,
explain.
yeah. You're gonna get up here and go, the chapter 4 is blah, 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 blah. And so what I got out of that was it made it clear that Troward was blah, 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 right here.
I just want to see something.
Does that make sense? So it's like a mini thing. I just want to make sure we get in all of the, he doesn't have a lot of, interestingly enough, he has a lot of his theory and everything about him, but it doesn't have a lot. I'm divine offering, chapter 10.
DJ, I'm divine offering, chapter 10.
Yes, DJ. Yeah. He doesn't have a lot of, like Emerson, real pretty, background in all of his life. We kind of just get him. He's from India, he's this, and then he goes right into it. So we're going to have a lot of what he really, the meat of Troward. Because he doesn't have a lot of, he had 7 brothers. Well, he didn't have too much going. He didn't have a lot of history either.
He was married, and they don't even talk about his wife at all.
One of them
He
says
had
that
4
one of
kids.
them says that Troward,
But his kids
his wife
carried on
died,
his
and the other
work.
one says he divorced him, which was true. Which is true? False news. Ooh. Ooh. Okay, I'm turning over. You guys, hasn't this been,
All right, so-
hasn't each week been really interesting? It has its own little personality, doesn't
I
it?
gotta get a sip of water before.
Even though Charles came in, he said, I just watched the one where you came in with the turban on your head with the mess. Yeah, we were here.
All right, we're gonna pray out.
Yeah. What?
It's my turn. But before I pray out,
Oh, good.
before I treat out, so registering the class is 45, not 40. Okay, and I registered your other class. I know the payment went through, but I do not have the set certificates yet. They actually say that they have 30 days to do it, but they always go over the 30 days. Yeah, no, yeah, I don't know what their story is. And you all know they're coming here, right? Isn't that awesome? February 15th of 2021. Yeah, they're going to do their kickoff. Yes? Edward Viyun. They're doing the kickoff session of Vista here. Viyun. Viyun. Yeah, they're doing their first. We were chosen to be the. They're going to 4 different places, and we're one of them. And we're the opening, and they're going to use our musicians. Yeah, no, we will pack this place. How many of the Sacred Earth Choir do you think we could fit up here if we had to? With a full audience. Forget about COVID. I am done with COVID. All right, everyone, let's just take a deep breath. Let us just let go of COVID and all the material world and just turn to the absolute and center right here and right now in that field of beautiful, amazing, perfect energy, that thing I call God, the absolute, the power and presence of the divine, that it's everywhere present in and through everything, that is infinite intelligence, that is total and complete love, that is perfect, harmonious, balanced. It is everything that is good. And it is right here where I am, and it is right here in the heart of each and every person here. Every breath we breathe is God's breath. That I know. And I know tonight I am so grateful for what has taken place here, knowing that we have all gained something from being here, something very, very good, something that we can use in our lives in some way. I know that there is wisdom here that was intuited by each of us as we studied Phineas Quimby, and as we move out into our experience with that knowing, with that wisdom, there is something that we can add to our lives in some great way and add to our work in this science and as practitioners of this science. So I know it is good, and I'm grateful for each and every contribution. I'm grateful for the great mind of Phineas Quimby and for all the great minds that have come before us and those that will come. And I'm grateful for the great minds in this room that are intuitors of truth in their own lives and that are making definitely a presence in this world of healing. So I am grateful, and I just take this word I have spoken as we go on our way in peace, and I release it as law, knowing it is done, as we can affirm together, and so it is. Period. February 15th is President's Day. Yes, it is. But we will be all here on President's Day with the real president. And that would be who? Us. Spirit. All right, everyone. Thank you.
Okay. We were all like, so I will email those to you because I have my list. Yes. Okay, email. Yeah, just